there's a gentle yet profound truth we often overlook. It is not the world that binds us. It is we who bind ourselves. We grasp at attachments, weave ourselves into desires, fears, and identities as if they define who we are. But have you ever noticed the quiet peace that arises when you let go, even just a little? When you release your grip, you begin to awaken to a freedom that was always within reach. Life was never meant to be a quest for possession or control. It is, at its heart, a path of release, a practice of shedding illusions, not collecting them. In silence, we touch serenity. In simplicity, we remember our true nature. What I'm sharing with you now is not abstract philosophy or hollow inspiration. These are timeless truths drawn from the teachings of the Buddha and lived experience, insights that have shifted the way I relate to the world, to others, and most importantly, to myself. So I invite you to be fully present. Let these words be more than just sounds. Let them be a mirror for your own inner journey. This isn't just another message. It's a doorway, one that opens to deeper awareness, to clarity, and to a life rooted in peace. Let us walk this path together. Lesson 1. Let go of the craving to be loved. Release the craving to be loved. Picture this. Your life is like a garden. You choose the seeds, the soil, and the rhythm of your care. But if you plant only what pleases others, watering blooms for their praise, whose garden are you really tending? Letting go of the need for others' approval isn't isolation. It's a return to your own path. In a world that constantly tells you who to be, choosing to be yourself is a radical act of freedom. We often measure our worth by how others respond to us. The smile of a friend, the praise of a boss, the approval of strangers online. But are these echoes of affirmation truly the essence of your being? The Buddha once said, "You yourself must strive. The Buddhas only point the way." This teaching reminds us that the path to freedom lies within, never in the opinions of others. So ask yourself, why do you chase after universal approval? It is an illusion, a mirage that vanishes the closer you get. Even the Buddha faced misunderstanding, rejection, and ridicule from those who clung to ignorance. If an awakened being could not satisfy every mind, why should we bind ourselves to such an impossible goal? Each person sees you through their own veil of karma, conditioning, and perception. You cannot control their gaze, nor should you try. Your freedom begins the moment you let go of the illusion that love must be earned through conformity. This letting go is not cold detachment, it's compassion turned inward. It is seeing your own nature clearly, without distortion. The love you seek has always lived within you. The Zen master Linji once said, "There is nothing I dislike." When we stop dividing ourselves into worthy and unworthy based on others' approval, we begin to touch this unconditional acceptance. We stop striving to be someone else, and we start resting in who we already are. Think for a moment. If you no longer needed the world's affection, what would change? Would you finally speak with honesty? Would you pursue that dream you tucked away out of fear? Would you live slowly, without the pressure to be someone else? You might even begin to love yourself, not with arrogance, but with tenderness and understanding. That's the kind of love that liberates, not binds. This path isn't always easy. It means facing the silence that comes when applause fades. It means walking alone at times. But the Buddha taught that, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. That is true strength, not in resistance, but in serenity. So begin now. Don't shape your life to win approval. Shape it to reflect your truth. When you stop chasing the love of others, you make space for a deeper, more lasting peace. One that doesn't depend on anyone's permission. And once that weight is gone, you may notice something else. Another quiet craving we rarely question. The need to understand everything. But what if not knowing was part of the path? What if peace could live even in uncertainty? Let's explore that next. Lesson 2. Release the craving to know everything. Release the craving to know everything. In today's world, overflowing with information and endless questions, we've come to believe that knowledge is the answer to peace. But the Buddha taught us something radically different. Peace doesn't come from knowing more, but from clinging less. We live in an age where answers are at our fingertips. 1,000 articles, videos, and voices promise clarity. But instead of peace, we often find ourselves more confused, more anxious, more exhausted. Why? Because the desire to know everything is a subtle form of attachment. And attachment, as the Buddha said, is the root of suffering. We think that understanding more will help us control life, but control is another illusion. No amount of knowledge can predict or prevent all pain, all loss, all uncertainty. The truth is, life isn't meant to be fully understood. It's meant to be lived, moment by moment, with awareness and compassion. Think of your mind as a still pond. When it's calm, it reflects the world with clarity. But constant questions and mental noise are like stones tossed into the water. They disturb the surface, clouding your vision and robbing you of peace. The Buddha once told a parable. A man is shot with an arrow, but before removing it, he demands to know who shot it, what kind of bow was used, and from which direction it came. While he waits for answers, he suffers needlessly. The lesson is clear. End the suffering first. Understanding can wait. So ask yourself, is this question truly necessary? Or is it another distraction pulling you away from the present? This doesn't mean we abandon learning. Buddhism honors wisdom, but wisdom is not the same as information. True wisdom grows from silence, mindfulness, and insight, not from compulsive seeking. Not every question deserves an answer, and not every answer leads to peace. Letting go of this craving doesn't make you ignorant, it makes you free. You don't need to know every headline to care for your family. You don't need to master every theory to be kind. You don't need to answer life's grand mysteries to walk this earth with love and presence. Remember, the Buddha didn't teach everything he knew. He taught only what helped end suffering. He said, "Just as the ocean has a single taste, the taste of salt, so too does my teaching have a single taste, the taste of liberation." This liberation begins with stillness, with spaciousness, with the courage to say, "I don't need to know everything." And when you stop chasing answers, you start feeling the present, the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the quiet miracle of being alive. Try it. Set limits on how much you seek. Pause before every mental chase and ask, does this nourish me, or is it noise? Learn to trust the quiet. Trust the moment. Freedom is not found in solving every riddle. It's found in surrendering to the beauty of what is. You don't have to figure everything out to live with grace. Just let go of what's unnecessary, and the essential will rise like the moon from behind a cloud, effortlessly. So I ask you now, what could you let go of today? What question can you leave unanswered? Because life isn't a puzzle, it's a path. And walking it with awareness is far more powerful than knowing where it leads. If this truth speaks to you, let me know. We're on this journey together, and if your view differs, I invite you to share it. We are all students here. I'm listening. Lesson 3. Embrace responsibility. Let go of blame. No one else is walking your path but you. No one else feels your breath, carries your thoughts, or lives inside your heart. The moment you realize this is the moment you begin to awaken. Blame is a heavy stone we carry on our back, thinking it protects us, when in truth, it only weighs us down. The Buddha taught that liberation begins with recognizing the root of suffering lies within, not in others, not in fate, but in how we choose to respond to life. It's tempting to point fingers when things go wrong. We blame parents, partners, bosses, even destiny. But every time we do, we give away our power. We declare ourselves powerless, waiting for someone else to fix what only we can heal. Imagine your life as a river. When you blame the current, the rocks, or the rain, you resist what is. But when you take up the oar, When you learn to steer with mindfulness and wisdom, the river becomes your teacher, not your enemy. There's a teaching in Buddhism called karma, often misunderstood. Karma isn't punishment, it's responsibility. It's the recognition that our choices plant seeds, and those seeds grow into our future. Every thought, every word, every action writes a line in the story of our life. So the question is, who's holding the pen? When you blame others, you hand it over. You become a character in someone else's tale. But when you take full responsibility, something extraordinary happens. You become the author. You realize you can rewrite the next chapter, no matter how the previous one ended. This doesn't mean ignoring injustice or pretending pain doesn't exist. It means shifting your focus from reaction to reflection. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, "By oneself is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is evil left undone. By oneself is one purified." No one can walk your path for you. No one can save you from your own mind. But that's not a burden. That's your greatest freedom. Think about someone who suffers a major setback, perhaps a failed relationship, a missed opportunity, or a personal loss. They could spend years resenting others, or they could sit in stillness, breathe into the pain, and ask with compassion, "What part of this is mine to understand?" And from that single question, transformation begins. Taking responsibility doesn't mean having all the answers. It means showing up. It means choosing awareness over blame, curiosity over resentment, growth over stagnation. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. So how do you begin this practice? Start by watching your mind. Notice the urge to blame. Pause. Ask yourself, is this reaction freeing me or chaining me further? Then, take small actions. Not to change others, but to change your relationship with the moment. Maybe it's how you respond to a rude comment. Maybe it's how you speak to yourself when you fail. Every small step is a thread in the tapestry of your awakening. And remember, the Buddha didn't promise a life without suffering. He promised a path through it. A path paved not with blame, but with mindfulness, compassion, and the quiet strength of self-responsibility. If today were your last, would you feel at peace with the story you've told? If not, good. That discomfort is the call to pick up the pen and write with intention, with love, with awareness. Responsibility isn't the end of freedom. It's the beginning. It's the light that shows you. You are not a victim of your past, but the creator of your future. You are the change you've been waiting for. So let go of blame. Breathe. Begin again. And as we continue this journey, let us explore what it means to walk the path of calm, resilient strength together. Lesson 4. Let go of the need to win every argument. Let go of the urge to win every argument. Your worth is not defined by how many times you're proven right. It's revealed in how gently you walk away from conflict. True peace isn't found in triumph, but in your ability to remain undisturbed when provoked. In the teachings of the Buddha, strength is not in overpowering others, but in mastering the mind amidst the noise of the world. Imagine standing in a storm of words, each one sharper than the last. Your chest tightens, your thoughts swirl, and your tongue aches to strike back. But a wise teaching whispers, just as a storm cannot move a mountain, so too cannot harsh words move one who is calm and mindful. When you choose stillness over reaction, you do not lose, you awaken to the profound power of awareness. There's a story of the Buddha being insulted by a man. Calmly, the Buddha replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man was speechless. Just as we can decline a gift, we can also decline to carry the burden of pointless conflict. When you stop arguing, it's not a sign of indifference. It's a sign of freedom. We often jump into debates because of one thing: ego. The ego clings, defends, and fears being wrong. But the Buddha taught that the self is an illusion, like a reflection on water, shimmering but empty. So before you speak in defense, pause and ask, am I seeking wisdom or am I defending an illusion? If it's the latter, breathe. Wisdom needs no defense. It simply is. Let's bring this closer to daily life. Suppose in a team meeting, someone challenges your idea. Instead of rushing to react, ask, is there truth in what they're saying? What can I learn? This shift in mindset not only eases your own tension, but earns quiet respect. Peaceful listening often reaches hearts further than loud words ever could. Buddhism reminds us, silence is powerful. The Dhammapada says, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. When you choose silence, you're not surrendering, you're stepping back to see the whole picture. In that stillness, understanding arises. So how do you put this into practice? First, use the 3-breath rule. When tension rises, take 3 deep breaths before responding. Let that space bring clarity. Second, focus on right speech. Ask if your words are helpful, kind, and true. And third, keep a mindfulness journal. Reflect on moments when silence served you more than speaking ever could. Ask yourself, where does true freedom live? Not in silencing others, but in being untouched by the need to be right. Challenge yourself this week. When disagreement arises, choose mindfulness instead of defense. You'll be amazed. The peace you're searching for isn't in victory, but in letting go. And remember, not every conversation needs your energy, and not every conflict deserves your attention. The Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. When you choose peace over pride, you leave behind the chains of ego and open the door to something far greater, liberation. If you've made it this far, you've already begun walking a noble path. Each lesson is a stepping stone, guiding you toward inner clarity and freedom from suffering. Stay with this journey, because what comes next will deepen your insight and bring you closer to true peace. Keep going. The journey is unfolding beautifully. Lesson 5. Embrace the beauty of imperfection. Imperfection is part of your nature, not a flaw, but a doorway. And yet, why do we spend so much time running from it? The truth is, you don't need to be flawless to be whole. In fact, the very cracks in your being are where growth begins. They are where compassion enters. In the light of Buddhist wisdom, imperfection is not your enemy, it's your teacher. The Buddha didn't promise a life without suffering. He showed us how to understand it. The root of suffering, he taught, is craving, especially the craving to be someone we're not. But what if, instead of craving perfection, you allowed yourself to simply be? Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up to who you already are. There's a story of a monk carrying a chipped bowl during his pilgrimage. When asked why he didn't replace it, he smiled and said, "The crack reminds me that nothing is permanent, and still, it serves." In the same way, your so-called flaws remind you of your humanity. You don't have to hide them. You have to meet them with loving awareness. You are not broken. You are unfolding. Instead of fighting every imperfection, shift how you see them. They aren't stains on your worth. They're part of your path. They soften the heart, make you humble, and open the door to compassion, both for yourself and others. To live meaningfully, you don't need to be perfect. You need to be present, aware, and kind to yourself. Think of the Buddhist concept of wabi-sabi, the appreciation of the imperfect, the incomplete, and the impermanent. It teaches that beauty lives in the cracks, the wear, the story. Your scars are not shameful. They are sacred. Trying to erase them would be like scraping gold from a statue. What remains wouldn't be richer, only emptier. There's a Zen parable about a cracked water pot. Each day, a young monk carried water from the river, and one of the pots had a crack, leaking along the path. At first, he saw this as a flaw, but over time, he noticed that flowers were blooming where the water spilled. The pot's imperfection had created a trail of beauty. That's your story too. So how do you begin embracing your own imperfections? First, let go of the illusion of perfection. It's a shadow you'll never touch. Instead of asking, "How can I be perfect?" ask, "How can I be real?" Begin to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to a dear friend, with gentleness, not judgment. When you make a mistake, don't attack yourself. Instead, ask, "What wisdom is this moment offering me?" Second, trade criticism for curiosity. Look inward not to shame yourself, but to understand. Each flaw you uncover is not a fault, it's a flame. Let it light your way. Think of someone you know who's always chasing perfection, constantly hiding, endlessly striving, and yet growing more anxious with every step. Now look within. Are you doing the same? Are you measuring your life against someone else's illusion? If so, pause. Take a breath. Your value isn't defined by smooth edges. It's defined by your truth. A work of art isn't loved because it's flawless. It's loved because it's alive. The same is true for you. Let your uneven brushstrokes speak. Let your story be messy and meaningful. Let the world see you. Not a polished version, but the honest one. And finally, ask yourself this. If I truly accepted everything I am, what would life feel like? Let go of the heavy chains of perfection. You'll feel lighter, freer, more connected. In Buddhist teaching, liberation isn't found in becoming something else. It's found in dropping the illusions that you ever needed to. Your imperfections are not detours. They are the very road to awakening. And as we continue this journey, it's time to look deeper. What stories have you silently believed about yourself? Are they real, or are they limits you've unknowingly embraced? Let's keep going. The next step will help you untangle the deepest knots and uncover the truth waiting beneath them. Lesson 6. Free yourself from the stories that no longer serve you. You are not the voice in your head, and you are certainly not the story it keeps repeating. I'm not enough. I don't deserve happiness. I can't change. These whispers, though familiar, are not the truth. They are echoes from old wounds, like faded writing on a wall you've stared at for too long. But just because you've seen it every day, doesn't mean you can't paint something new. In the teachings of the Buddha, suffering isn't just in what happens to us, it's in how we interpret it. Our attachments, our fears, and our beliefs become stories we cling to. And over time, these stories build invisible cages around our hearts. We think we're protecting ourselves, but in reality, we're only shrinking from the truth of who we are. So ask yourself, are the things I believe about myself truly mine? Or are they just old scripts handed down by others, parents, teachers, past mistakes, that I never questioned? The Buddha once said, just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over again. That includes the inner monologue that tells you you're not ready, not worthy, or not capable. These are not facts, they are fears. And fears grow louder the longer you feed them. But what happens when you stop feeding the fear? Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet forest. You hear that voice again, the one that says you'll fail, that you're not strong enough. Now imagine choosing not to believe it. What path would open before you? What courage might awaken if you no longer mistook that voice for reality? This isn't about denying your pain or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about realizing that you are more than what happened to you. You are more than your regrets, more than your doubts, more than the labels you've worn for years. In Buddhist practice, this awareness is called right view, seeing things clearly, without distortion. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of identifying with them, you reclaim your power. You stop being a prisoner of your mind and start becoming its master. So how do you begin this shift? Start small. Shift your language. Instead of, I always mess up, try, I'm still learning. Instead of, this is just who I am, ask, who am I becoming? Every word you choose plants a seed in the soil of your mind. What you water will grow. And here's a powerful truth. You are not the story. You are the storyteller. Your past doesn't get to decide your future unless you allow it to. Yes, you've made mistakes. So have we all. But mistakes are not life sentences. They are invitations to grow. Think of your life like a scroll. The ink of yesterday cannot be erased, but the space ahead is still blank. You get to write what comes next. Will it be a chapter of fear or one of freedom? If you're still unsure, ask yourself, if I let go of all the stories that limit me, who would I become? Would you finally try that dream? Would you forgive yourself? Would you let someone in? You don't need to have all the answers right now. Just begin with one question. Is this thought helping me heal or holding me back? Freedom doesn't begin with grand changes. It begins in silence, in the quiet moment when you pause and refuse to accept the same old narrative. That's when a new path begins to appear, one step at a time, lit by the light of awareness. Say it aloud, not for the world, but for your soul. I believe in myself, not in the illusion of perfection, but in the truth of progress. Not because you've never fallen, but because you keep rising. Let this be your new mantra. Let it replace the doubts. Let it become your truth. And now, as you shed the stories that no longer serve you, you arrive at the most intimate part of the journey, meeting yourself in complete stillness. In that silence is where your real strength begins. Let's walk that final step together. Lesson 7. Discover the power hidden in solitude. There will be times in your life when the silence feels heavy, when everyone has gone quiet, when the world outside seems distant and all you're left with is yourself. At first, solitude can feel like a punishment, like something's missing. But what if I told you that this silence you fear is actually a doorway, that in the very space where loneliness lives, your deepest strength is waiting? In Buddhist teachings, solitude isn't something to escape, it's something to embrace. It is in the stillness, away from distraction, where you begin to see things as they really are. The mind slows down, the noise fades, and in that moment, you begin the most important journey of all, the one inward. You see, the world constantly tells us we need more connection, more validation, more noise. But the Buddha taught that freedom lies not in adding more, but in needing less. When you learn to be content in your own company, when you can sit with your thoughts without fear, that's not weakness, that's power. Most people run from loneliness, but you have the chance to sit with it, and in doing so, uncover the truth. You were never truly alone. You just forgot how whole you already are. Solitude is not emptiness. It's a mirror. It shows you your fears, your insecurities, but it also reflects your wisdom, your strength, your unshakable center. It strips away the noise of the world and brings you face to face with your raw self. Not the version others see, but the one that's always been quietly watching beneath the surface. So, how do you find peace in this silence? Begin by reframing what solitude means. Don't see it as a lack of something. See it as the presence of everything that matters. Just 15 minutes a day. Step away. Turn off the screens. Let your breath guide you home. Sit with your feelings, however uncomfortable. The goal isn't to escape your thoughts, it's to understand them. Then, ask yourself the questions that truly matter. What do I need, not want? Who am I when no one else is watching? What kind of life would I live if I no longer feared being alone? Each answer brings you closer to the core of your being. And in that space, you'll find something extraordinary: self-trust. Because here's the truth. Solitude isn't a weakness. It's a muscle. And the more you train it, the stronger your sense of self becomes. Think of a mountain. It doesn't crumble when the wind howls or the rain falls. It stands, silent and unmoved, because it knows its own foundation. That's what you are becoming. Not someone who needs the world to feel whole, but someone who finds the world within. And the beauty is, once you master this solitude, you no longer fear being alone. You begin to choose it, to return to it, because in that quiet space, you remember who you are. So, I ask you now, can you sit with yourself and still feel complete? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. You are free. Let solitude be your teacher. Let it shape your resilience, your clarity, your joy. And when the world outside grows loud again, return to this place within, where peace is not something you seek, but something you carry. This isn't just silence, it's spiritual strength. And now that you've walked through solitude, you're ready for the final, most liberating lesson of all. Conclusion. Timeless practices to turn inward and release what no longer brings peace. Rooted in the teachings of the Buddha, these insights are more than just ideas. They are gentle lanterns guiding you toward inner stillness and true liberation. Always remember, real happiness doesn't arise from clinging to the outer world, but from understanding the nature of your mind and gently letting go of what causes suffering. This path may not always be smooth,